Inflammation is at the root of almost every chronic disease we fear: heart disease, diabetes, arthritis, even accelerated aging itself. For years, we've been told to reach for turmeric as the golden cure. But what if I told you there is one food, backed by emerging scientific evidence, that works even faster to shut down harmful inflammation inside your body? A natural food you already know, but have never recognized as the potent anti-inflammatory powerhouse it truly is. Today, I'm going to show you how this single ingredient activates your body's own defense systems, calms inflammatory pathways within hours, and supports your immune, metabolic, and vascular health, all without supplements, powders, or complicated routines. This is food as medicine at its most powerful, and by the end of this talk, you'll know exactly how to use it to help your body heal from the inside out. When we talk about inflammation, most people imagine something visible: swelling, redness, or discomfort. But the kind of inflammation that truly damages health happens silently inside the body. It's the microscopic fire that slowly burns within our blood vessels, our organs, and even our cells. For years, turmeric has been the celebrated hero in the world of natural anti-inflammatory remedies, and for good reason. Studies do show that curcumin, its main compound, can interrupt inflammatory signaling. But what's often overlooked is that turmeric's curcumin is very poorly absorbed by the body. Most of what you consume passes through your system without ever reaching the bloodstream in meaningful amounts. This is where the real story begins, because there is an everyday food, one you might have walked past at the market 1,000 times, that works entirely differently. It doesn't rely on exotic compounds that need special combinations or fat sources to become effective. Instead, it contains naturally bioavailable molecules that your body recognizes immediately, allowing them to act within hours rather than days or weeks. This food does something that turmeric cannot do effectively on its own. It shuts down the primary inflammatory pathways that drive chronic disease. The inflammatory process is governed by a network of signals, including cytokines, prostaglandins, and immune messengers like NF-κB. Think of NF-κB as a master switch inside your cells that turns inflammation on when it flips into the active position. Whether triggered by poor diet, stress, sugar intake, environmental toxins, or even lack of sleep, it sends a cascade of inflammatory instructions to your immune system. Many foods can influence these pathways, but the one we're focusing on does it with remarkable speed. It targets NF-κB directly, keeping that switch from staying stuck in the on position. Scientists studying its effects have been surprised by how quickly its bioactive compounds enter the bloodstream, interact with immune cells, and reduce inflammatory biomarkers such as CRP and IL-6. Another reason this food works faster than turmeric is because of the way its natural compounds are structured. Unlike curcumin, which is fat-soluble and depends heavily on other factors for absorption, the anti-inflammatory compounds in this food are water-soluble, meaning they enter circulation efficiently. Once they circulate, they interact with endothelial cells, the cells that line your blood vessels. When inflammation is present, those endothelial cells become stiff, narrow, and dysfunctional. This leads to high blood pressure, poor blood flow, and increased risk of plaque formation. The food we're discussing contains molecules that relax and restore the endothelium, improving circulation and reducing inflammatory tension inside the vascular system. Better blood flow means better nutrient delivery, better oxygen transport, and more effective removal of metabolic waste that can otherwise increase inflammation. What makes this food especially powerful is that it doesn't work only on one pathway. Turmeric mostly targets one zone of inflammation, but this food acts on 3 or 4 simultaneously. It reduces oxidative stress, a major driver of inflammation, by boosting your body's internal antioxidant systems. Oxidative stress is essentially cellular rust caused by free radicals that damage DNA, proteins, and fats. When this oxidative stress is present, inflammatory pathways are automatically triggered. By neutralizing these free radicals, this food lowers the need for your body to produce inflammatory responses. At the same time, it interacts with immune cells, particularly macrophages, which act as first responders in the inflammatory process. When macrophages become overly active, they release inflammatory cytokines that make the entire system flare up. Compounds in this food help calm those macrophages, bringing them back to a balanced state. One of the most impressive discoveries about this food is how quickly changes can be measured in the bloodstream. In some studies, inflammatory markers began dropping within hours of consumption. This rapid response is rare in the world of nutrition, where many foods require consistent intake over long periods to show measurable benefits. But the reason for this fast action is clear. The molecules in this food are highly bioactive, meaning they interact directly with the inflammation machinery rather than indirectly modulating it. They reach immune cells, endothelial cells, and metabolic pathways quickly, giving the body immediate support in turning off the inflammatory fire. Another important factor is how this food interacts with the gut. About 70% of your immune system lives inside your digestive tract, and chronic inflammation often begins there. Poor dietary choices, stress, and processed foods disrupt the gut barrier, making it leaky and allowing particles to enter the bloodstream that should never be there. This triggers widespread inflammation. The food we're focusing on helps reinforce the gut barrier, feeding beneficial bacteria while reducing harmful species that produce inflammatory byproducts. By strengthening the gut lining, it prevents the continuous drip of inflammatory triggers into the bloodstream. Turmeric can also help the gut, but again, its absorption issues limit its total effect. This food, however, works reliably with every serving. Its anti-inflammatory benefits extend into metabolic health, which is crucial because metabolic dysfunction is one of the biggest silent drivers of inflammation. When glucose levels spike and insulin becomes less effective, the body stays in a state of low-grade inflammation all the time. The natural compounds in this food help stabilize metabolic processes, preventing sharp increases in blood sugar and reducing the oxidative stress that comes from those spikes. When metabolic balance is restored, inflammatory pathways naturally calm down. All of this happens because the food supports the body's own healing systems, reinforcing the idea that the most powerful medicine often comes from what we eat rather than what we supplement. This is why this one food stands out. It works with remarkable speed, remarkable consistency, and through multiple biological pathways that turmeric simply cannot target as effectively due to its limitations in bioavailability and narrow scope of action. The science behind this powerful food begins with inflammatory compounds. Natural motor act directly with the body's health, body's defense systems. Inflammable standing on his health defense systems. Every food we consume carries chemical information, but only certain foods contain compounds capable of influencing the deepest layers of human biology, particularly inflammation. What makes this specific food remarkable is that its bioactives act not like passive nutrients, but like molecular switches. These switches activate pathways that support immunity, improve blood vessel function, strengthen cellular resilience, and reduce oxidative stress, which are all directly tied to how inflammation behaves inside the body. Unlike turmeric, whose key compound requires enhancers like black pepper extract to even enter the bloodstream, the compounds in this food are inherently bioavailable. This means your body recognizes and absorbs them naturally, allowing them to work quickly and efficiently. One of the first systems these compounds activate is the body's angiogenesis defense system. Angiogenesis is the process by which the body grows and prunes blood vessels. When inflammation is present, blood vessels can become swollen, dysfunctional, or overly fragile. The bioactive molecules in this food help regulate angiogenesis by supporting healthy vessel repair and reducing the formation of problematic inflammation-driven microvessels. Proper control of angiogenesis is crucial not only for reducing inflammation, but also for maintaining balanced circulation. Scientists have found that when these compounds interact with endothelial cells, the delicate inner lining of blood vessels, they help restore flexibility and prevent the kind of stiffness that is often seen in chronic inflammatory conditions. Better vessel elasticity means the body experiences less internal stress, which in turn helps lower inflammatory load. Another key biological system influenced by this food is immunity, particularly the innate immune system, which acts as the body's frontline defense. Inflammation begins when immune cells like macrophages, neutrophils, and T cells detect a threat. However, when these cells become overactivated due to toxins, high sugar intake, stress, or chronic metabolic imbalance, they release excessive inflammatory cytokines. The bioactives in this food help restore immune equilibrium by modulating cytokine release. They do not suppress the immune system. Instead, they rebalance it, ensuring it responds appropriately rather than aggressively. This effect is especially important because uncontrolled cytokine signaling is one of the primary drivers behind chronic inflammation. The compounds in this food interact directly with receptor sites on immune cells, guiding them away from unnecessary inflammatory responses and encouraging a more measured, healing-oriented mode of action. Supporting the antioxidant defense system is another critical way this food works. Oxidative stress, caused by free radicals, is one of the most powerful triggers of inflammation. Free radicals damage cell membranes, DNA, and proteins, and when cells sense this damage, they activate inflammatory pathways to protect themselves. The bioactive compounds in this food enhance natural antioxidant enzymes like glutathione peroxidase catalase and superoxide dismutase. These enzymes neutralize free radicals before they can cause cellular destruction. Additionally, this food contains its own antioxidant molecules that work synergistically with the body's internal defenses. When oxidative stress is reduced, inflammation naturally declines because the body perceives fewer threats that need inflammatory intervention. This dual antioxidant action, both internal activation and external supply, gives the body a strong, immediate shield. What makes the science even more compelling is how these bioactives communicate with cellular signaling pathways. One of the most important pathways is NF-κB, the master controller of inflammation inside cells. When NF-κB is activated, it instructs the cell to produce inflammatory proteins. Many people don't realize that diet alone can influence this pathway. The compounds in this food have been shown to downregulate NF-κB activation, meaning they prevent the signal that tells the cell to initiate inflammation. This effect is not superficial, it is deeply rooted in molecular biology. By keeping NF-κB from becoming chronically activated, this food helps the entire body stay in a state of balance rather than constant immune alertness. This is exactly the kind of systemic effect needed to combat long-term inflammation, and it is something that poorly absorbed compounds like curcumin struggle to achieve consistently. Another remarkable aspect of this food is its effect on gene expression through a process known as epigenetic modulation. Epigenetics refers to how environmental factors, including food, influence which genes are turned on or off. The bioactive molecules in this food interact with epigenetic markers, directing genes related to inflammation, metabolism, and cellular repair to behave in healthier ways. This means the food doesn't just reduce inflammation in the moment, but influences how the body regulates inflammation over time. Certain genes that promote healing and tissue repair become more active, while genes that encourage inflammatory responses become less dominant. This kind of gene-level interaction highlights why some foods are far more powerful than others in shaping long-term health. The gut microbiome is another system significantly influenced by the bioactive compounds in this food. A balanced microbiome is essential for inflammation control, as gut bacteria produce key metabolites that influence immune function and inflammatory response. The compounds in this food act as prebiotics, feeding beneficial bacteria that help maintain a strong gut barrier. They also help reduce populations of harmful bacteria that produce toxins linked to chronic inflammation. A healthier gut microbiome means fewer inflammatory triggers leaking into the bloodstream, which reduces the overall burden on the immune system. The gut healing effect of this food also enhances nutrient absorption, making the body more efficient at using the vitamins and minerals it receives. Finally, these bioactive compounds support metabolic regulation, which is closely tied to inflammation. Poor metabolic health, characterized by insulin resistance, high blood sugar, or excess visceral fat, creates a pro-inflammatory environment throughout the body. The compounds in this food help improve insulin sensitivity, stabilize glucose levels, and reduce metabolic stress. As metabolic balance improves, inflammatory markers naturally decline because the body is no longer fighting the biochemical chaos caused by unstable blood sugar and impaired cellular energy production. All of these scientific mechanisms show that this one food is far more than a simple dietary ingredient. It is a biological ally that works with precision across multiple systems to reduce inflammation from the inside out. Its rapid impact on blood vessels, immunity, and cellular repair begins with the way this food interacts with the endothelium, the delicate inner lining of every blood vessel in your body. The endothelium is incredibly sensitive to inflammation. When inflammatory molecules surge, whether from poor diet, stress, toxins, or metabolic imbalance, the endothelial layer becomes stiff, irritated, and dysfunctional. This sets off a chain reaction. Blood flow becomes restricted, nitric oxide production drops, and the vessels lose their flexibility. The bioactive compounds in this food enter the bloodstream quickly and begin restoring endothelial function by triggering nitric oxide release. Nitric oxide is essential for vasodilation, allowing blood vessels to relax and widen. When vessels relax, circulation improves instantly, oxygen delivery rises, and inflammatory stress decreases. This improvement in blood flow is one of the earliest measurable effects, showing just how fast this food begins to influence vascular health. The improvement in vascular function also reduces oxidative stress within the blood vessels. Oxidative stress, created by free radicals, damages the endothelial cells and triggers inflammation. The compounds in this food help neutralize these free radicals before they can do further harm. As oxidative stress decreases, the blood vessels recover their ability to respond to physiological demands. Improved endothelial health doesn't just reduce inflammation. It supports heart function, brain circulation, muscle performance, and organ vitality. Researchers studying this food often note measurable improvements in vascular biomarkers within hours of consumption, pointing to its unusually rapid action. This is important because poor endothelial function is one of the earliest signs of chronic inflammation, often long before symptoms ever appear. The immune system is closely linked to this vascular response. When blood vessels are inflamed, immune cells become activated, patrolling the body with heightened sensitivity. If this activation becomes chronic, the immune system moves into a state of unnecessary alertness, releasing inflammatory cytokines even when there is no real threat. The bioactive molecules in this food communicate with immune cells directly. They help modulate macrophage behavior, shifting them from a pro-inflammatory state into a more balanced, repair-oriented mode. This is critical because macrophages are often the culprits behind ongoing inflammation, secreting cytokines like TNF-alpha and IL-6 that fan the flame of inflammatory response. By interacting with receptors on these immune cells, the compounds in this food help calm the overactive immune activity that drives chronic conditions. Another key immune effect involves T cells, which coordinate the body's defensive strategies. When T cells become dysregulated, often due to persistent stress or poor dietary patterns, they can mistakenly trigger inflammation. The compounds in this food help restore T cell balance, reducing unnecessary inflammatory signaling while still supporting the ability to fight real infections. This dual action is crucial. Many anti-inflammatory drugs suppress the immune system, leaving the body vulnerable, but this food works with biological intelligence, supporting immunity while reducing inflammation. The result is a more resilient, balanced immune system that operates with precision rather than aggression. The interaction with immune cells is further supported by the effect this food has on gut-associated immunity. Because the majority of immune activity begins in the gut, the way this food nourishes the microbiome influences immune behavior throughout the body. Beneficial bacteria fed by the compounds in this food produce short-chain fatty acids like butyrate, which have well-documented anti-inflammatory effects. These metabolites help calm immune activation, tighten the gut barrier, and reduce the flow of inflammatory substances into the bloodstream. As the gut becomes healthier and less permeable, the immune system becomes less reactive, lowering overall inflammation levels and enhancing immune stability. Cellular repair is another area where the effects of this food become evident quickly. Cells that are constantly under inflammatory attack experience DNA damage, mitochondrial stress, and impaired communication. Without efficient repair, cells age faster, function poorly, and send distress signals that amplify inflammation. The natural compounds in this food help activate cellular repair systems, including pathways associated with autophagy. Autophagy is the process by which cells clean out damaged components and regenerate healthier structures. When autophagy is active, cells are more resistant to inflammation, oxidative stress, and metabolic dysfunction. The bioactive molecules in this food have been shown to stimulate these repair processes, ensuring that cells regain stability and can function more efficiently. Mitochondria, the energy powerhouses of cells, are particularly vulnerable to inflammation. When mitochondria are stressed, they produce more reactive oxygen species, which fuels oxidative stress and inflammation. The compounds in this food support mitochondrial function by reducing oxidative pressure and improving energy production efficiency. When mitochondria work well, cells produce clean energy, maintain structure, and control inflammatory signaling more effectively. This cellular level resilience is a key reason the food has such rapid and broad anti-inflammatory effects. Another important aspect of cellular repair involves the reduction of DNA damage. Inflammatory molecules can attack DNA strands, leading to malfunction or mutation. The antioxidants and protective compounds in this food help shield DNA and support enzymes responsible for repairing breaks or abnormalities. As DNA integrity improves, cells communicate more accurately and perform their duties with fewer inflammatory misfires. Healthy DNA also ensures that cells can replicate and replace themselves properly, promoting tissue repair and regeneration throughout the body. This food's multi-level impact becomes even more powerful when all three systems, vascular, immune, and cellular, begin working in harmony. Improved blood flow supports immune regulation by allowing immune cells to travel efficiently without causing unnecessary stress. A balanced immune system reduces inflammation that would otherwise damage blood vessels. Enhanced cellular repair strengthens the tissues and structures that both systems depend on. This interconnected healing effect is what makes the food uniquely powerful compared to many other anti-inflammatory ingredients that work only in isolated ways. Ultimately, the speed and depth of its impact come from its ability to activate the body's own defenses. It does not override biology or artificially suppress inflammation. Instead, it reminds the body how to heal, restore balance, and respond to stress with intelligence rather than overreaction. By improving blood vessel function, modulating immunity, and strengthening cellular repair, this food supports the foundation of long-term health and helps the body reduce inflammation from the inside out. The way this food stabilizes metabolic function to reduce inflammation at the source begins with its effect on glucose regulation, one of the most important drivers of inflammatory stress in the modern world. When you eat foods that spike your blood sugar, refined carbohydrates, sugary snacks, processed meals, your body responds by releasing insulin to lower that spike. Over time, repeated spikes force the cells to become resistant to insulin, meaning glucose stays in the bloodstream longer than it should. Elevated blood sugar creates oxidative stress, which damages cells and triggers the release of inflammatory cytokines. The bioactive compounds in this food help slow the absorption of glucose in the bloodstream, smoothing out sharp rises and creating more stable blood sugar curves. This stability reduces the internal stress signals that lead to chronic inflammation and helps protect the pancreas from overworking to produce insulin. The impact on insulin sensitivity is another major reason this food works so efficiently against inflammation. When cells respond well to insulin, glucose can enter the cells and be used for energy instead of accumulating in the bloodstream. This food contains natural molecules that improve insulin receptor function, making cells more responsive to insulin's signal. As insulin sensitivity improves, the body does not need to release excessive amounts of insulin after meals. High insulin levels can act as inflammatory triggers, especially in fat tissue. By reducing insulin spikes, the body experiences fewer inflammatory responses overall, allowing metabolic pathways to function more naturally and without constant pressure. One of the lesser-known aspects of metabolic inflammation involves visceral fat, the deep, hidden fat stored around your abdominal organs. This type of fat is metabolically active, meaning it produces its own inflammatory chemicals. Visceral fat secretes cytokines like TNF-alpha and IL-6, contributing to a continuous state of low-grade inflammation that spreads throughout the body. The bioactives in this food help reduce the activity of enzymes responsible for storing excess energy as visceral fat. They also support the breakdown of existing fat by improving mitochondrial efficiency, allowing the body to convert stored fat into usable energy. As visceral fat decreases, the production of inflammatory cytokines also declines, reducing the overall inflammatory burden on the body. Another significant piece of the metabolic puzzle involves lipid metabolism, how the body processes fats. When lipid levels are imbalanced, especially when LDL cholesterol becomes oxidized, it triggers inflammation inside blood vessels. The compounds in this food help reduce the oxidation of LDL particles by providing antioxidant protection that shields the lipids from damage. Oxidized LDL is one of the main contributors to plaque formation and vascular inflammation, which can eventually lead to heart disease. By keeping lipids stable and less prone to oxidation, this food helps prevent the inflammatory cascade that arises when the immune system tries to clear damaged cholesterol particles from the bloodstream. The liver plays a central role in metabolic health, and it is highly sensitive to inflammation when the liver becomes overloaded from poor diet, toxins, or excessive fat accumulation. It sends distress signals that spread inflammation to other organs. The bioactive compounds in this food support liver function by enhancing detoxification pathways and improving fat processing efficiency. A healthier liver can regulate metabolism more effectively, maintain balanced hormone levels, and keep inflammatory responses under control. By supporting liver function, this food helps eliminate one of the most common silent sources of chronic inflammation: Another critical connection between metabolism and inflammation involves the gut microbiome. Metabolic imbalance disrupts the balance of gut bacteria, allowing harmful bacteria to produce inflammatory compounds that leak into the bloodstream. This food contains natural fibers and polyphenols that act as nourishment for beneficial gut bacteria. As these bacteria flourish, they produce short-chain fatty acids that support metabolic stability and reduce inflammation. The improvement in gut health also strengthens the intestinal barrier, preventing inflammatory particles from escaping into circulation. This gut metabolism inflammation link is one of the strongest explanations for why certain foods create either healing or harm in the body. Hormonal balance is another area improved by this food's metabolic support. Hormones such as leptin and ghrelin control hunger and satiety, and when they are disrupted, often by inflammation, people experience increased appetite, cravings, and weight gain. Excess body fat then creates more inflammation, forming a negative cycle. The compounds in this food support leptin sensitivity, helping the brain recognize fullness signals more accurately. This reduces overeating and stabilizes energy intake, which helps prevent metabolic overload and reduces inflammatory stress on fat cells. Balanced hunger hormones allow the body to maintain a healthier metabolic rhythm, lowering the likelihood of chronic inflammation developing or worsening. Energy production within cells is another metabolic function heavily influenced by inflammation. When cells are inflamed, their mitochondria, responsible for generating energy, struggle to perform efficiently. Poor mitochondrial function leads to fatigue, oxidative stress, and impaired cellular repair. The bioactive molecules in this food help restore mitochondrial efficiency, ensuring that cells can produce energy smoothly and with fewer harmful byproducts. When mitochondria function well, cells communicate more clearly, repair themselves more effectively, and create fewer inflammatory signals. Improved energy production supports overall metabolic balance and provides the body with the resilience needed to withstand everyday stressors. The interaction between this food and metabolic hormones extends to cortisol, the primary stress hormone. Chronic stress elevates cortisol levels, which disrupts metabolism and increases inflammation. The compounds in this food help regulate cortisol by reducing oxidative stress and calming the physiological pathways activated during chronic stress. Lower cortisol allows the body to process nutrients more efficiently, maintain stable blood sugar levels, and reduce inflammatory responses triggered by stress-related metabolic dysfunction. The combined effect of these actions, improved glucose control, better insulin sensitivity, reduced visceral fat, stabilized lipids, strengthened gut health, balanced hormones, and restored mitochondrial function, creates a metabolic environment where inflammation cannot thrive. When metabolism is stable and efficient, the body does not send out the emergency signals that trigger chronic inflammatory responses. Instead, it operates with a sense of internal calm, allowing healing and restoration to take place naturally. One of the most remarkable qualities of this food is how effectively it supports daily consumption for maximum anti-inflammatory benefits without needing complicated preparation, supplements, or exotic combinations. The power lies in its ability to deliver consistent bioactive compounds that the body can use every single day to lower inflammation, improve cellular function, and support long-term health. To understand why daily consumption matters, it helps to look at how inflammation behaves inside the body. Inflammation is not a one-time event. It is a continuous process influenced by what you eat, how you sleep, the stress you experience, and the toxins you encounter. Every meal either fuels inflammation or fights it. By integrating this food into your daily routine, you create a steady supply of molecules that keep inflammatory pathways under control. This food contains natural compounds that are incredibly stable, meaning they do not degrade easily during cooking or digestion. This makes daily intake reliable because the body receives a consistent dose of anti-inflammatory molecules that accumulate and strengthen over time. What makes it even more effective is that its bioactive compounds do not require special conditions to be absorbed. Unlike some anti-inflammatory ingredients that need fat or specific spices to become active, this food delivers its benefits simply by being eaten in its natural form. This simplicity allows people to incorporate it in their meals easily and consistently, which is essential because consistency is what drives measurable reductions in inflammation markers like CRPL6 and TNF-alpha. One of the reasons daily consumption works so powerfully is its effect on the gut microbiome. With every serving, This food feeds beneficial bacteria that produce short-chain fatty acids known for calming inflammation throughout the body. These fatty acids help reduce inflammatory signaling in the immune system, strengthen the gut barrier, and prevent harmful substances from leaking into the bloodstream. When these compounds are produced daily, the microbiome becomes more stable, diverse, and resilient. A healthy microbiome is one of the strongest protectors against inflammation because it controls immune response, detoxifies byproducts, and regulates metabolism. The more consistently this food is eaten, the more balanced the gut environment becomes, creating a foundation for long-term anti-inflammatory support. In addition to its microbiome benefits, this food helps regulate blood sugar levels each time it is consumed. Sharp increases in blood sugar create oxidative stress, which triggers inflammation. By slowing carbohydrate breakdown and improving insulin sensitivity, this food helps maintain stable blood sugar throughout the day. When consumed regularly, it acts almost like a metabolic buffer, smoothing out the highs and lows that contribute to chronic inflammation. Stable blood sugar is also linked to better energy levels, clearer thinking, improved mood, and reduced cravings. These improvements create a positive cycle that helps reduce the lifestyle patterns, such as overeating or high sugar intake, that often drive inflammation. Daily intake of this food also benefits blood vessels by providing a constant supply of compounds that support nitric oxide production. Because inflammation damages the endothelium, frequent nourishment is needed to maintain vascular flexibility and proper circulation. The more regularly these compounds are available, the better your blood vessels perform. Over time, blood pressure becomes easier to regulate, circulation improves, and the body's ability to transport nutrients and remove waste increases. This is a significant advantage because poor blood flow not only increases inflammation but also inhibits healing. Daily consumption helps ensure that your vascular system remains responsive, elastic, and capable of supporting your body's natural repair mechanisms. Another important factor in maximizing anti-inflammatory benefits is how this food supports cellular repair every day. Cells are constantly exposed to wear and tear from environmental toxins, stress hormones, ultraviolet light, and internal metabolic reactions. Without regular support, cellular damage accumulates and inflammation rises. This food contains antioxidants and protective compounds that shield cellular structures, including DNA, proteins, and mitochondria. When consumed daily, these compounds reduce the burden of oxidative stress and allow repair mechanisms like autophagy to function more efficiently. Autophagy is the cellular recycling process that removes damaged components and helps cells regenerate. Peak autophagy requires consistent nourishment, and this food provides the necessary elements to support it. One of the most overlooked reasons daily consumption is effective is that the body works in cycles, not in one-time reactions. Inflammatory signals rise and fall naturally throughout the day based on food intake, stress levels, physical activity, and hormonal rhythms. Eating this food daily aligns with these cycles, helping the body maintain a more balanced inflammatory response. Because the food's anti-inflammatory compounds are active in the bloodstream within hours, they are perfectly timed to intervene during regular inflammatory spikes, especially those triggered by meals or environmental stress. Over time, this rhythmic support helps retrain the body to maintain lower baseline inflammation. In addition to its powerful internal effects, this food is incredibly versatile, making it easy to add to breakfast, lunch, dinner, or snacks. People can mix it into smoothies, blend it into sauces, include it in salads, or eat it as a standalone ingredient. The ease of integration encourages long-term adherence, which is essential for anyone trying to reduce inflammation sustainably. The simplest anti-inflammatory habits are often the most successful because they fit naturally into daily routines without requiring major lifestyle changes. The sensory experience of this food, its flavor, aroma, and texture, also plays a role in encouraging daily consumption. Foods that taste enjoyable activate reward pathways in the brain, making healthy habits easier to maintain. When something is both delicious and beneficial, you're more likely to reach for it repeatedly. This creates a powerful advantage because many anti-inflammatory foods require effort, discipline, or preparation that people struggle to maintain consistently. This food bypasses that challenge by being both enjoyable and deeply nourishing. The psychological effect of incorporating a simple daily habit can also reduce stress, which itself is a major driver of inflammation. When people adopt a sustainable health routine, something they can do every day without strain, it creates a sense of control and empowerment. This reduces stress hormones like cortisol and supports a calmer physiological state. Lower stress enhances the anti-inflammatory effects of the food even further because inflammation and stress feed each other in a cycle. Each daily serving becomes an act of both nourishment and self-regulation, reinforcing a more balanced internal environment. Ultimately, the consistency of daily consumption allows the body to accumulate the protective effects of this food's bioactive compounds. Rather than relying on sporadic interventions or temporary fixes, the steady daily intake creates a strong internal defense system that remains active around the clock. The body becomes better at managing inflammation, repairing damage, regulating metabolism, and responding to everyday challenges. This daily rhythm is what makes the food not just a remedy but a reliable cornerstone for long-term anti-inflammatory health. Creating a simple daily habit that supports long-term wellness begins with appreciating how small, consistent actions influence the body's internal systems over time. When you start your morning with something as uncomplicated as a spoonful of olive oil and fresh lemon, you're not just taking in nutrients, you're initiating a cascade of biological responses that quietly shape your energy, your metabolism, your cellular health, and even your long-term disease resistance. This habit becomes a signal to your body that you are choosing to support it, setting a tone of nourishment and balance for the entire day. What makes it powerful is not complexity but consistency, because the human body thrives on repeated patterns that reinforce stability and internal rhythm. Over time, this morning ritual can evolve from a simple wellness tip into a foundational part of your lifestyle, a practice that your body comes to depend on the same way it depends on regular sleep and hydration. As you create this habit, the key is not perfection but repetition. A daily morning cue, waking up, drinking water, preparing your olive oil and lemon, creates a neurological loop that anchors this behavior in your routine. This loop strengthens your internal clock, supporting your circadian rhythm in ways you may not fully realize. When your mornings start with something nourishing, your brain perceives a state of safety and stability, reducing early morning cortisol spikes and helping regulate your stress response throughout the day. Over weeks and months, this stability can contribute to improved hormonal balance, better digestion, and even enhanced emotional well-being. Your body begins to expect nourishment rather than unpredictability, which reduces internal inflammation triggered by stress and erratic habits. What starts as a simple drink becomes a form of biological reassurance, reinforcing calm, consistency, and internal equilibrium. Incorporating this simple habit also means giving your digestive system a gentle head start. Before breakfast or coffee, your stomach and liver are primed to receive nutrients and process them efficiently. Lemon stimulates natural digestive enzymes, while olive oil lubricates and prepares the intestines for smooth movement. Over time, this reduces digestive sluggishness, bloating, and irregular bowel patterns. It trains your gut to function in a more predictable way, supporting the microbiome and improving nutrient absorption. This consistency often leads people to experience clearer skin, better concentration, and reduced fatigue because the digestive system plays a central role in energy production and inflammation control. By supporting digestion every morning, you create a ripple effect that influences how your body handles food, toxins, and metabolic stress throughout the day. Long-term wellness is built on thousands of micro decisions repeated over months or years, and a morning olive oil and lemon habit fits naturally into this model. Because it is simple, accessible, and requires no elaborate preparation, it becomes easier to maintain than complicated diets or intense routines. Human behavior research shows that habits stick when they are easy, enjoyable, and require minimal effort. The sensory experience, the aroma of lemon, the smoothness of the olive oil also reinforces the ritual, making it something the brain looks forward to. Over time, this habit can anchor other healthy choices. You might find that starting the day with something beneficial naturally leads you to make healthier selections in meals, hydration, movement, and sleep. One positive action tends to create momentum for more positive actions, and this is how long-term transformation begins. Not with dramatic shifts, but with simple triggers that influence choices throughout the day. Another benefit of this routine is its effect on mindful living. Taking a moment each morning to slow down, prepare your mixture, and consume it with awareness creates a daily pause, a moment of intentionality. This pause signals to your nervous system that the day is beginning from a place of care rather than rush. You may find this moment helps you regulate your breathing, lowers tension in your muscles, and improves mental clarity before you step into the demands of the day. Over time, these small adjustments to the nervous system accumulate into better emotional resilience, reduced stress reactivity, and an overall sense of groundedness. A simple morning habit becomes an anchor that stabilizes your emotional and physiological responses, supporting your well-being beyond the physical benefits of the ingredients themselves. Maintaining this routine over the long term also aligns with the body's natural processes of repair, detoxification, and regeneration. Each morning you reinforce your digestive rhythm, support liver function, and supply antioxidants and healthy fats that nourish your cells. The cumulative effect is what matters. Your cells operate on daily cycles of renewal, and the consistency of this practice ensures they receive steady support over months and years. This can translate into better metabolic flexibility, improved cardiovascular health, reduce chronic inflammation, and enhance cognitive vitality. These changes come gradually, often subtly, but they create a foundation for healthier aging and long-term wellness. With each passing day, this small ritual becomes a quiet but powerful investment in your future health, reinforcing the idea that transformative wellness is not built on intensity but on daily commitment that honors your body's needs.